Mark, fun fact for you. Exactly 2 years ago today, our first episode went out. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me. I'd have bought you a card if it was the sort of information I'd ever retained.
I must admit, we only realised this in the taxi on the way over and thought, well, isn't that a wonderful coincidence?
Well, happy birthday, us.
Yes, there we are. There we are. So a lot has changed since 2 years ago today. I think if I was to summarise it, whistle-stop tour, your attitude to intensity of fitness, what you want from it, the things that you want to focus on with what you're creating is all evolving in a way and is leading down a very specific direction, which we'll talk on soon. But if you could summarise what the past 2 years have held for you, what would it be?
Yeah, actually, I need to sort of place myself historically 2 years ago. So that would have been the summer of 2022. Okay. Yeah. So okay, right. I'm with it now. So summer of 22, I'd have been training I'd probably been quite deep into the high rocks thing at that time. I'd have been running some serious distance races, ultras and stuff, and was probably also getting Jen involved at that stage. So life for me and her was very, very much fitness based. And then I kind of blew myself out with enthusiasm, a kind of enthusiasm overload, end of 23, trying to get really good at high rocks, and just kind of, I don't even know what the sports sciencey term would be for it, other than got fed up. That's probably not the term, but I just went into Christmas. So we're now 8 months ago now. Went into Christmas, just thinking, why am I going to this extreme? It doesn't lend itself to what I'm trying to do on YouTube, because I'm getting people saying to me left, right, and centre, you're no longer above average. You're now very much above average. So you're becoming unrelatable. That wasn't necessarily true, because as you'll know, YouTube adds a certain degree of athleticism to anybody. You can very easily look an awful lot more than you are. So I wasn't quite what people perceived me to be, but I was definitely above average. So it wasn't helping there. I was tired all the time. I was hungry all the time. I was picking up injuries because I'm 50, so things were starting to break. And I thought, I'm going to just back off, and I'll have a couple of weeks of just doing nothing, eat donuts, and then I'll come back into it. And that was 8 months ago.
And it was about 3 months ago that you started to. You are moving, but not to Springfield. Actually, it's important to mention on this. We'll come on to the big future plans, but it was about 3 months ago that you started getting, I guess the phrase is, back on the wagon, if we were using very specific sports science terms, as we've established we are.
Yeah.
What was the trigger for that?
Do you know, one of the annoyances is that I never know what my triggers are, and it's annoying because a lot of time people they're in their own place of needing to get on the wagon, either back on it or on it for the first time, will say to me, what is it that has to happen for me to wake up tomorrow and think I'm now after this? And it's annoying because I'll say to them, I have no idea. Even for me, it will be the most random things. And it won't ever be, or it never has been for me, one defining moment where I woke up and the next day it was all great. It will be, okay, I'm a bit back. In fact, I don't get back on the wagon. So basically what happens is there'll be something that happens, could be minor, could be huge, but it will make me start looking at the wagon. And then another thing will happen, and I might, progress closer to it. And then I might be, hanging under it, Indiana Jones style. And eventually enough things compound that I suddenly think, oh my goodness, I'm now actually on the wagon. So that's really been the last 3 months. Every now and again, something else has happened. It could be somebody on YouTube saying you're looking fat. It could be my wife saying, it's a pity we can't go on holiday because of the state of you. There's things that add up, and all those little things make me the next day think, okay, I'm going to get back on Zwift today. I'm going to start running again today. I'm going to watch what I eat. Last night I watched Wolverine and Deadpool, and this morning I woke up. I basically picked up my supplement regime again, a creatine and protein powder and the vitamins and stuff I take, and I've got a bit more kind of regimented about that because of watching, Hugh Jackman. So, in fact, funnily enough, I tell people all the time, get motivated by what you see on screen, whether it's YouTube or the big screen, but don't emulate it because that's dumb. I am today in the mood to emulate Hugh Jackman's CGI created body. I mean, that's how dumb I am being. But equally, I'm leaning into it. If that's what makes me want to get home and hit the gym after this, then so be it. So yeah, little things just making me think all the time. Today it's hot, and I'm hotter than I should be because I'm fatter than I should be. I'm wearing a chubby coat, and and people say, "Oh, it's not that bad." It's because I'm 6'6". I can look okay, but be way heavier than I'm comfortable with. So it's stuff like that. Yeah, the summer just makes me feel tired and lethargic all the time. I'm lying in bed at night just sweating and all those things. And my wife said we can't take on holiday because let's go skiing.
For a real coat. So first time we spoke, we broke down the sort of the journey from your career into what has become, I mean, the sub 25K changing your life. That was a real key turning point there. And we spoke about your relationship with food, binge eating, relationship with fitness as it's developed. In this period of time, we've had a bit of a downtime, having been fed up. How have you managed reflecting on the past in relation to the present? Because I can imagine there were some similarities and there were maybe some methods that you reflected on or some feelings that you'd felt before. Has it been similar?
Yeah, it's been very similar in the sense that I can recall all the annoyances I had of being out of shape that I've had in the past. Those have all come back. I mean, I'm not kidding. I'd literally forgotten what it was like to spend all summer uncomfortable. I'd forgotten that feeling. I'd forgotten what it was like to think, oh yeah, I haven't worn those shorts in ages and go to put them on, they don't fit. I'd forgotten all those annoyances. So when they come back, the nice thing about it is because I've experienced it, I can be annoyed by it, but I can then use it to fuel me because I know I can solve it. Whereas in the past, I would have just been annoyed with no idea if I could solve it. In fact, when I was 37, 38, I was thinking I can't solve it because I'm going to be 40 soon and that's too late, because that was my perception. I now know that at 50, I'm fine. So I'm recognizing the annoyances from last time, but because I know the path I have gone down before and I can do again, I'm much more calm about it. Although the downside of that is that it leaves me a little bit sometimes blasé about it. So sometimes I'll think, I can have that Chinese tonight because I know I can fix it. And there was a real fear when I was in my 30s that if I do not fix this by 40, I am just toast. I'm never gonna meet someone. I just got divorced. I thought I'm never gonna meet another person. Well, I meet lots of people. I never meet someone that thinks that I look half decent. I'm never going to be able to get back in shape. My fitness is going to be terrible. I had all those real concerns fueling me. The slight problem now is that I mean, again, I don't want to sound like I've got a kind of a Hugh Jackman fixation, but I come out of that and I think Hugh Jackman's 55. I'm not even 51 yet. I could actually have a couple more years off, and I've still got 3 years to get back to where Hugh is. So which is a very blasé and stupid attitude to have, but once you know you can do it, I find it very easy to tell myself it'll be okay. So that, yeah, I don't know if that even answers the question or recall what the question even was.
I think I've lost track of it as well, but I think
it would have been a good one.
The question certainly wasn't how in love with you are Hugh Jackman, but you told us anyway.
Yeah, the answer would be yes.
It might be a probing question, but I think at your age, kids have just left the house. You are very exposed on a weekly basis to the internet by choice and by cadence and by commitment. That's now how you make a living.
Yeah.
How have you dealt with your own mental well-being, your perception of yourself, your self-esteem, your decision-making day to day, knowing that you've got that additional external stressor? Because I guess the first time that you did it, you didn't have hundreds of thousands of people watching you. Whereas now you do, which means that you can frame it as, okay, the journey of getting back to where I was is a great opportunity to do this, that, or the other. Or have you perhaps maybe gone the other way where the pressure of knowing that all those people are expecting something from you makes you think, oh, well, fuck it, even more so?
A little bit, although that might be, I might have lent into that side of it a little bit more earlier in the year. There was a part of me that thought, do you know what? I can be at the moment we know there are kind of overweight influencers. There are people that very, very clearly define themselves as being overweight but still able to jog, CrossFit, whatever their choice of sport is. So part of me thought, well, I could be that. I could be kind of like Mr. Average influencer. I can be like the everyman rather than the slightly above average man. And I lent into that a little bit, but I've come to think that just for the purposes of YouTube, commercially, that doesn't really work. People do like to see something a little bit, I was going to say extreme, just unusual, because if they want to see usual, they walk out the front door and they can look up and down the street. So being literally Mr. Average doesn't work well on YouTube, even if I'm putting out a message that might be quite useful for people to hear. There are people that are average themselves and should be able to hear someone saying it's great to be there. You're already above the norm by being there. Don't be too hung up on what you see on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok and goodness knows what else. Be happy where you are. But the trouble is that message can be as wholesome and as lovely and as I want it to be, but if no one's watching it because my thumbnail is just a bit average, no one's going to hear it. So it's pointless. So what I've realized is that actually I'm a better YouTuber in better shape, even if my message remains, you don't need to be, as it always was, you don't need to be in this level of shape. I mean, people, when I go and do ultramarathons or something, my message to people has always been, if you fancy jogging, go and do a park run. It wasn't go and do a 100k ultramarathon. That was never but I did the 100k ultramarathon because that was a way of attracting people to hear my message of go and do a park run. So really, frustratingly, I need to be in better shape to attract people to hear my message, which is you don't need to be like this, but a bit better than where you are. In an ideal world, I wouldn't need to do that, but it's becoming evident that I do.
Do you think aspiring and becoming above average in many things has almost ruined all things for you? Because I'm kind of going through a bit of a evolution myself where I just am not finding that same level of excitement, that fire in the belly, that curiosity that I used to have with big events, certain metrics. And I've fallen out of love with training is no longer number one priority. I was always trying to be sort of athlete training focused first, everything else comes second, whereas for whatever reason that's become a little bit murkier. And I think it is because I've kind of achieved pretty much all of the things in all of the disciplines that I wanted to, and anything more than that is just getting quicker, which doesn't appeal to me. Short of going and doing the Patagon Man and all that sort of stuff, which is a sense of adventure, the stuff that's accessible out my front door that isn't a massive production or is massively difficult, requires 9 months of training, isn't very exciting to me. And then you're like, right, well, what the fuck am I going to talk about on YouTube then? So
yes.
are you in a similar trap?
Well, yeah, there is a little bit of that. I mean, it's hard because I've done. The bottom line is that I am not and have never been an amazing athlete. I mean, just far from it. So you mentioned my 5K. Getting my 5K into 20 minutes was a huge thing. I'm a long way off that now, but I will get back there, and that will be a huge thing to me again. But at every park run, there'll be guys in their 60s doing sub 20-minute 5Ks. So I've never been a great athlete. So the things I've done, the challenges I've done, have all had to be slightly tempered by a bit of common sense. So I'll go and do a 100k ultramarathon, but it's London to Henley, which basically means if I get stuck, I call an Uber in Windsor, and I'm never completely outside of my comfort zone. And what was then happening? People would email me and say, "Hey, have you heard about this ultramarathon where you trek from down the Appalachian Trail or something, and you're out there for 7 days, and you bring your own tent." And what are you talking about? Are you insane? No, I don't. No, I want to be home for bed on every event I ever do. So I was never really set up and wanting to or able to do anything particularly grand. My forte was going and doing these things that are outside or people believe are outside of their reach, but actually most people could do. And most people, unless you have an obvious medical reason why you can't. Most people, if they gave themselves a couple of years, could get to the point where they could do a 100k ultramarathon because you just walk most. In fact, Jen did it. Jen, my wife, went from no running at all to jogging park run. I think her park run she scraped under 30 minutes. And then off she goes and she runs a 100k ultramarathon. And it takes her forever and it's hard work, but she gets it done. That was always my message, that those sort of events, those sort of challenges are just outside the reach of the average person. So get yourself above average, you can go and enjoy them. But I've done them. I don't really want to go and do them again and again and again. I'm not physically capable of doing much more than them. So it does leave me thinking, okay, what then do I do on YouTube? Because my message, which is get off your butt and go and do something and have fun with it, is still one I want to put out. But it has to be packaged with something else to be YouTube friendly, because otherwise people are going to go and watch Mr. Beast instead. I'm up against that. So I haven't fallen out of love with doing the crazy events. I just never actually did events that were that crazy. If you actually look at my tough challenges there, I think the toughest thing I ever did probably was trying to eat 10,000 calories in a day, which, I mean, in the scheme of things, it's not that tough. Because if you fail, you just stop eating and watch some telly.
It's probably easier to burn them at 6'6".
Actually, I did. I successfully burnt the 10,000, but couldn't eat them, bizarrely.
That's very much the inverse of the way it goes for most people.
In fact, funny enough, I was copying a bunch of other, Will Tennyson and Joe Faze and so on, who all did this challenge and did it the other way around. They all managed to eat, but they couldn't burn.
I did both in the same day when I had 3,000 subscribers. Barely anyone's seen the fucking video. It is an absolute hassle, so I don't really want to do it again.
I got very, very lucky because Greg Doucette told me, we were chatting and he said, hey, you should do it. It'd be a fun thing to do. So I did it, and then he spoke about it on his channel a couple of times, and it kind of gave me a little leg up. So I got a bit of an assistance from him. And it kind of did okay.
Nice. Excellent.
Because, if I'd have done that challenge and only had it seen by a few thousand people, that would have been...
Careful with your next words, Mark. This keeps me up at night.
That would have been a tricky one.
No, it's something I'd like to do again. I think I had about 6,500 calories on a watt bike that day, which was just very, very silly. It was very uncomfortable.
See, the trouble is, when I did it, I mean, this is... my kind of commercial head on, I was trying to think, how do I make it entertaining? Because actually I've burnt 10,000 calories in a day by doing stupid ultramarathons and stuff, but it's incredibly tedious to watch unless you're making it about the funny adventures of an ultramarathon. You can't just package that into a day where you're also eating Easter eggs. So I basically set out, like, what can I do to get 10,000 calories? I need to do some running because I need people that run to watch this. I need to cycle because I want the cyclists. There's going to be the gym bros, so I need to do something in a singlet with at least one nipple on display in a gym. And I got to kind of bring everyone together so that they can all watch it and find it entertaining. So I was kind of bouncing between activities, which made it even more brutal because a lot of those activities don't burn many calories. And
you're probably out of practice and skill with them, which means they actually hurt you.
They were grim. They were horrible. I'm doing wall balls and stuff to burn because I'm thinking this will be good. The High Rocks people, I love this. Let's give them some wall balls. I should have just sat on the bike in the Zwift pain cave and just pedaled all day while watching Netflix. That would have done it far, far more easily. But the commercial side of me was thinking, no, I got to get now. If I was doing it today, I'd probably start off with some pickleball or something just to.
Yeah, I was there. My brain was wandering there. So I was thinking a game of paddle into this, into that. But that's just a fucking hassle. The logistics of it are a nightmare. People have no idea, and nor should they. But the amount of work that goes into, and it's not necessarily because there'll be other YouTubers listening to this thinking, "What are you talking about?" I make those videos without any thought whatsoever. The way I do it is I put a ridiculous amount of work and effort into it and script it, and so even jokes that were kind of appearing to be just off the cuff, on the fly, halfway through the day as I was walking from one event to another event, was a joke that I'd come up with and wrote down. It was in a script, and it's everything is planned in advance. And so when you're planning something like that, for me, it's a big deal. Yeah.
I know exactly what I'm going to be doing and where, and what I'm going to say that's funny, and every kind of whatever stupid glance to camera is calculated, which sometimes people I can't see as negative. And
I've seen those comments. I've seen people say that on your videos before,
which is strange because if I go and watch whatever
the Grand Tour,
or actually something more arty, if I go and watch Springsteen in concert, I'm not going to be disappointed that Bruce wrote the lyrics down before he sang them out. You know,
I was expecting freestyle rap.
Yeah, well, indeed, yeah. Like, oh, hang on a minute, it looks like your piano player is in cahoots. You've given him the music as well. Like, no, the best art is planned, whether it's Springsteen or Shakespeare, Scorsese, Lewis. I mean, it's there's no kind of harm in that. It's quite weird that because we've kind of grown up. Some people have grown up with the YouTube idea that you just kind of grab a camera and you talk to a GoPro and it's all on the fly and it's all off the cuff. And I didn't. I grew up watching scripted television or scripted film or scripted comedy. Even stand-up is scripted comedy for the most part. So I just did that on YouTube. So yeah, it's always surprised me. People say, as I did actually on a recent video, I did one just the other day on my testosterone replacement therapy. So it's quite a talky. I'm just talking to the camera about that. And someone said, do you write down what you said in advance? And I say yes, but I almost feel bad saying yes because I know they're going to be, I wish you had it off the cuff. They don't really wish that because what they'd be wishing for is a video
to get to the point.
They'd have a million jump cuts and it would just be horrible. It would be kind of typical YouTube cliched stuff where every sentence has 15 cuts in it and you know that behind the scenes that sentence took half hour to get right. I would rather just in the style of Springsteen get the sentence right first time. So again, can't remember what you asked, but it probably wasn't anything to do with Bruce Springsteen.
It wasn't, but questions evolve, answers evolve, and I sit somewhere in the middle where I'll bullet point out what I want videos to look like, and then riff off the point. So the points are planned, the structure is planned.
Yes,
the points are then delivered, but I'll avoid jump cuts unless I properly fuck up. But I'll try and one take the point. Yep. And then what I often find I'm doing is if I say something for let's say there's a 90-second section, the first 45 seconds I nail it, and then I fuck up the next 45, and then I'm like, I can't remember where we could have cut. You know what? I'll just try it again. I think I know what I want to say, and then I'll try and recreate the first 45 seconds that in my head was spot on. So just try and say the exact same thing again. And then I'm trying to recall a script that I just made up whilst also thinking in real time about what I'm going to say next.
Did you ever use a teleprompter?
No, we had this discussion 2 years ago and I still haven't got one.
Yeah, so I for the style that I do, I couldn't work without it. I mean, it means that I can write a 25-minute script and do it in 45 minutes as opposed to it taking an hour and 45.
Yeah.
It's interestingly, I had a video that I did a few weeks ago. I can't remember what the video was about, but it came out a bit longer than I wanted. It was about 29 minutes or so. So I took 9 minutes of it out and put it up as a 20-minute video, and it ended up with a lot of jump cuts, not because I'd made mistakes, because I was just ditching some of the fat on it. And I thought, it's got a few more jump cuts than normal, but who cares? Who even notices these things? And I had a comment from someone saying, I don't know what went on with this video, but there was more jump cuts than normal. And I thought, brilliant, that's amazing. I'm never going to put up something so shoddy again. Most people watching it would probably not even notice that it was the odd jump cut. And some people, there'll be a jump cut after every single word.
Yeah.
I think I had about 4 in this thing, but I love that this guy had noticed it. And I was like, yeah, no, you're right. It was rushed. It was stupid. I should have just redone the script properly. And thank you for noticing. So I'd like it when that's spotted. In fact, that's the highlight for me. When I do something...
It's the highlight of YouTube career so far, that comment. There we are.
Someone just spotting something that's important to me. I like that. And it can be a joke. I mean, my script yesterday, I wanted to kind of... You watched the show Brass Eye? You might be a bit young for Brass Eye.
I know the show. I haven't seen it, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
They kind of took topical issues of the day and then kind of satirised the way media... I was going to say looked at those issues back then, but it's probably even worse now. I started my testosterone replacement therapy video yesterday with a kind of Brass Eye style introduction where I hold up my testosterone, which wasn't actually testosterone, it was my pot of lube. and I say to camera, like, testosterone, juice, gear, jacked man's treacle, call it what you like, it's everywhere. Like, I do this kind of ridiculous, overdramatic style of intro. And someone in the comments straight away was like, "Oh, I love the brass eye intro." I was like, "Yes." I don't care how many people see it now, to an extent.
Ignore the other 373 comments.
As long as someone gets it, that always makes me chuckle. Yeah, I like that.
I can't wait to chop up this whole section. Give it to Elliot, our editor, and say, "Elliot, please chop this up into the most jump cutty little clip we've ever seen, and send it to you just to have you squirm." No, don't do it.
I've done that myself. I did a video a while ago about how I make YouTube videos, and I made a reference to kind of like draw masks and text passing behind you and stuff, and how it can be done properly, and it takes a long time, or it can be done badly. And properly for me takes a very long time because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm completely self-taught, and I've created the example of some text that was supposed to fly behind my head, but to show it badly, I had it not quite work. And it was almost, it was like someone went, if you're an amazing pianist, I would guess, never been one, it's almost hard to kind of go wrong.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to edit this thing to be bad, and was finding it was still too good. I'd got so, not because I'm great at editing, but because I'd become so accustomed to being strict on myself that it has to be not perfect, but it has to be proud. I have to be proud of it. When I hit upload, I want to think, I don't want to think, I could have put a couple more hours into that, because if I could do that, I should do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, jump cuts. Yes, it's the first world problems.
Very much so.
YouTubers, their jump cuts.
Very damn them. I being one of them sometimes. I feel attacked, but also very necessary. The creative demand focus of the past couple of months, the period that we discussed in terms of your fitness and your focus, how much was your creative stimulation triggered in the way it normally would be when you know that you're kind of operating in a slightly different set of circumstances in terms of the chopping board of what videos are going to look like? Did you find that you had to really think more? Was it frustrating you week to week to be able to hit the cadence on YouTube that you want to hit?
Yeah.
And I know that you take a lot of pride in your creative output. That much is clear in terms of the scripting and it's a very professionally done outfit, and that's led to huge results. So how did you cope with having to really deviate from what I can imagine become the norm for the first 3-4 years of the channel?
Yeah, it is frustrating. It is frustrating. There are videos that I've done in the past where I just know they work, and part of that is my physicality. So as a really good example, last autumn, I think it was, I raced against a kid, Louis Robinette, who held then the record for the fastest 9-year-old park runner, like a 17:30 park run or something insane. So I go and race him around a track, and obviously he beats me. And that's the video. It's me racing around a track, and he beats me. But I knew that the physicality of me being 6'6" and 220, and at that time in great shape, next to this little tiny kid who's going to destroy me, it's just made for YouTube. So I have a really good message in the video. It kind of finishes with a point. There's a nice story to what I'm really confident that I've got a good product behind the thumbnail, but without the thumbnail, no one sees the product. And I put that thumbnail up. It's me on the start line, ready to go, and I'm looking jacked and stupid, and he's looking like a little kid. And the video just pops off and does a couple of million views. And that part of it, the 2 million views, is nice. You can't expect that every time, or at least I can't. But I did expect it would do well. And there are topics I'd like to do now that I simply can't do because I don't have that look anymore, and I can't keep using my old pictures because that gets a bit ridiculous. And it is annoying that I can't. Here's a random example. I was getting some chiropractor the other day. My guy does my chiro. He also trains pole vaulters. And I thought, oh, that sounds amazing. I want to pole vault. Like, how hard can that be? That looks like one of those things that you see.
Yep.
No one's ever done. Like, who's ever pole vaulted apart from pole vaulters? So I want to have a go at pole vaulting. But that only works if I go and do it looking like someone that should be quite good at physical things. If I just go and do it being a bit fat and useless. I'm just a random fat useless bloke trying to pole vault and not being able to do it. I need to be able to turn up and people think that guy looks like a bit of a beast and he couldn't get 3 feet off the ground. How incredible must the actual guys be? A bit like I did when I did the speed walking video. Again, did really well because I look like I looked and Tom Bosworth, who's the race walking guy, looks like he looks and he absolutely destroyed me. That's exactly what I want. So I can't do the pole vaulting video until I look like someone that should be good at those sort of things, but because it's not my sport, won't be. So it's annoying me that I can't do those. But it kind of is what it is. It motivates me. It frustrates me that you can't. I used to do this in sales. When I used to work in sales for years, 30 odd years. And unusual for financial services at the time, we actually had a reasonable product that wasn't designed to kind of rip people off and stitch them up. So I knew that what we were doing was good for people. And I would meet people that had no interest in it whatsoever. And they wouldn't even give me the time of day, which is fine. But it would frustrate me. I think, do you know what, if I could tie you to a chair, which you're not allowed to do in financial services, if I could tie you to a chair for half an hour and explain to you what the amount of tax we're going to save you and so on, you'll want this, but I can't tie you to a chair, so you're never going to hear about it. How frustrating. And it's a little bit like that on YouTube sometimes. I'll put a video up and I'll think, that is a great video. If I could make someone watch even the first 2 or 3 minutes, but I can't. They're going to see the thumbnail and that's it. And so I remember your question this time. The answer to it is I'm annoyed that I'm not thumbnail ready. That's probably the best example of it. And if anyone has any doubts about how important the thumbnail is, I did a video recently where I compared the progress my wife's been on versus mine. So basically, we've both taken 6 months off, but she's not eaten everything in sight and therefore still looks. That's unprofessional. That's my doorbell ringing.
Hopefully, not getting burgled.
Well, if they are, they'll meet my wife and the dogs.
3 dogs.
Good luck on all counts. So my wife had stayed in reasonable shape and I hadn't. And very early on in the video, 20, 30 seconds in, there's a clip of me in my gym, in my garage at home, looking a mess physically. And there's a clip of her in a bikini and we're kind of stood side by side. And it's not 10 seconds, probably 3-second clip, just demonstrating that she's in shape and I'm not. I go to the algorithm, the algorithm, not the analytics that YouTube present you with. And anyone that doesn't know, when you put up a YouTube video, you can look at incredible amounts of information about how that video is done. And one of the things it shows you is who drops off when. So when you put a YouTube video up, you expect people to click on it and immediately drop off. Some people just go, I didn't want to watch this, and they'll move on. So you start off with 100% of people watching it, and very quickly you have 90, 80, 70, and then you see if you can hold on to maybe 50 or 60% of them. So my graphs normally start at 100, very quickly over 30 seconds drop to 60 or 70%, and then how long can I keep their attention for? This graph had a peak of 108% at about 20 seconds in, because basically so many people had gone back and watched again the few second clip of either my wife in a bikini or me looking a mess. It's probably her in a bikini. The numbers, there were basically more people watching it 20 seconds in than started watching, because people are repeat watching it. And I thought, do you know what? I'm stupid not to just put that as the thumbnail of the video. So I switch it. That then became the thumbnail of the video a good few weeks after the video had peaked. So the video had now plateaued off, and almost immediately the click-through rate on that video, which had fallen to about 5%, which is kind of standard after a while, went up to 14%.
Which is very high.
Which is very high. And it's still there because it's got either my wife in a bikini or me looking a mess.
Which video was this?
It's called I asked my wife to exercise and now she's fitter than me, or something. Yeah. So, and part of me thinks just lean into that, as many people do. And just, it's not clickbait, because it's literally a video about that. It's actually a video literally about that, because is someone that looks good in a bikini fit? Is that fitness? I mean, there was a bit of that in there as well. So it's genuinely about that. But also it's low-hanging fruit. I just, part of me just thinks, no, dude, don't do that.
Does the stand-up in you, the creative in you, get irritated by that? Because YouTube's a funny one where you could, like you said, you could make the best video in the world, but it's completely irrelevant if nobody clicks on it.
Yeah.
But you've put a lot of pride, effort, input into what you're putting up there, and it's not going up unless it's something that you're happy to put your name to. Whereas the game that we're playing means that you then need to nail the shop window as well, which sometimes frustrates me because I lean on people around me massively for thumbnails. My thumbnails on the channel are not great. When they're done by other people, they're much better. When the concept is born from a starting position, get this photo, do it in this way, rather than just, okay, let's take what we've got from the video and piece something together. I know it performs better, but the challenge is time and input around the businesses and things like that. So for me, it really does irritate me that I can make a video I'm very proud of, and then the thing that I don't care about or don't have the eye for, which is thumbnail design, is the thing that lets it down.
And it's the only thing that matters to an extent.
Yep.
It's the only thing that matters. And if you look at the guys that are crushing it in our world of fitness YouTubers, their thumbnails are all of they look the same. I mean, they basically just kind of start to do.
It becomes quite template focused, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they look like, I say they all become the same. They become the same because all thumbnail editors end up just gravitating towards what works for Mr. Beast as the,
which clearly appeals to a simple part of a human brain.
Indeed, and I was going to say simple brains, and it works. And it's slightly tricky because I would imagine that the age demographic for people watching the typical fitness YouTuber is a bit younger than perhaps my audience. But yeah, it is a frustration. What I do, and this sounds very kind of pompous to have this attitude, but I don't care because it works for me. I imagine that when Martin Scorsese goes and watches Avengers Endgame or something, because he's forced to by someone, because I don't imagine he goes willingly, he has to sit and watch this thing that's generating billions and billions of pounds, and he's, I imagine, watching it not quite understanding why that is in some way regarded by many people as better than whatever, Goodfellas or Casino or something, and he has to just be content with the fact it doesn't matter, he's Martin Scorsese. I do that. I tell myself, if Martin can hold it together while just complete gibberish makes much more money than his films do, then surely I can. And there are many examples of that. I'm watching a documentary at the moment about the guy that created NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys, and it's this guy that basically just kind of throws these kids together and says, "Sing this daft stuff," and suddenly, they're making huge amounts of money. There must be musicians of all sorts and types all around the world looking at that and thinking, hang on a minute. I started playing classical violin when I was 2 years old, and these kids get thrown together and suddenly they're Justin Timberlake. That's not fair. And again, if they can kind of hold it together under that frustration, then me thinking it's annoying that that here's what I ate in a day video again does better than mine. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. So it is frustrating, but I find that likening myself to Scorsese and violin virtuosos takes some of the edge off of it.
It's a safe tactic. Completely logical. Not something I consider.
For example, I did the comic Stuart Lee. Has he ever come across your radar, Stuart Lee, comedian?
No.
Stuart Lee he's a great comic, and a lot of British people will know Stuart Lee. And, probably one of the funniest comics I've ever seen, but doesn't get TV work. I mean, he's had TV work, doesn't get much TV work, doesn't get Saturday night game show hosting, but is an incredibly skillful comic, and the sort of almost the opposite of your kind of broad sort of Michael McIntyre kind of thing. And I've heard him talk about this same thing that people say, you're a comedian's comedian, your skill is incredible, and how does it feel to watch whatever, maybe Ricky Gervais just go, I'll be a stand-up now, never having done any of the kind of,
and then I'll be an actor now.
Well, indeed, yeah, and how is that, and he's what he says about that is basically how I feel about it, which is that is the nature of the beast, and you have to be if you're content with what you did, then just be content with what you did. There's always going to be better examples of people that should be even more annoyed than you by mediocrity accelerating past their whatever they're producing at a rate that doesn't make any sense.
Given your self-appointed pomposity and the discussion we've just had, you must have considered the notion that maybe I could be an actor at some point in the past couple of years. Because when you were peak high rock shape, peak thumbnail shape, thinking I'm an absolute stud, 48, 49 years old, I've got this ability to script write, I've got this ability to deliver it, I've got the comedian ability, which we can see in the modern world is apparently all you need to become an actor for the most part. Yeah. Has it crossed your mind?
No.
It will now.
No, do you know, it kind of never did. The acting thing has never appealed to me. I mean, when I was in my 30s, actually go right back, when I was in my teens, my 20s, my 30s, I was working in financial services. I knew that I'm not religious, but if I was, my feeling would have been that I have not been put on this planet for the thing I'm doing now. Like there is a role that I have been assigned and I've not yet found it. I felt very like that, which was annoying because I was doing financial, I was doing quite well, so I couldn't leave what I was doing, but I knew it wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. And the minute I found stand-up comedy, I thought this is not exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm definitely on the right path here. So and that was writing. It was the writing more than the performing. So I've since then the script writing now on YouTube. I did some sitcom TV writing a while ago between stand-up and doing YouTube, which didn't go anywhere, but I kind of played in that world a little bit. It's the writing that I like. So in terms of kind of aspirations of doing anything a bit more or different to YouTube, it would be writing.
Interesting.
I've had a couple. The slight problem is people said to me, I was talking to a publisher quite recently, and said, "You write a book," and I know, it's a bit like thumbnails. I know I could write because I know I can write, but I don't quite know what the thumbnail for the book is, if that makes sense. Like, why is someone picking up my book over Goggins' book or whoever's book that they would have sat next to mine in the shop, if you even have shops selling books nowadays. So I need to kind of figure out what my thumbnail is. I don't mean literally a thumbnail. I mean my reason for someone picking up my book. So no aspirations to be an actor, but writing. I'm watching this film last night, and I'm just admiring the writing in it. If I could do nothing but write other people's stuff.
There's some scenes in some movies that I just see the way they pull it off. Little subtle things here and there. We're like, oh, whoever's written that in there was either very intoxicated or under the influence or just an absolute genius. Because there's a few things I'm just like, that is my favourite part of what I've just witnessed in totality, was the cleverness with which the writer has put that together.
Yes, I exactly that. I love watching stuff, Aaron Sorkin and stuff like that, where you can tell that, the script is as fundamental a part of what you're taking in as anything else. It doesn't matter that Pacino's there giving his best or whatever. It's the words on the page that are making what you're seeing. It doesn't matter whether it's comedic or serious. I love when language is kind of played with by someone that knows what they're doing, and that's the bit of YouTube that I enjoy. It's coming up with things like Jack Man's treacle.
Jack Man's treacle.
Yeah, I've never had Aaron Sorkin and Jack Man's treacle in the same paragraph before. But
there's a first time for everything. There's a first time for everything. So you're not becoming a writer. You're in fact moving to the countryside.
Yes, I am.
Talk us through why.
It's a long story, but I'll tell it real fast because I've told it to a few people and I've got quite practiced at it now. I was a bit bored around Christmas time and thought, well, I'll buy a Ford Mustang to not be bored anymore. I think I'd watched John Wick a couple too many times. And I wanted a Mach 1, which is the old Mustang that John Wick drives. I think he's got a 69 or a 70 Mach 1. Anyway, a Mach 1 is a special edition. They made one recently as well. I thought I'd buy that. So I hunt around. I find one on...
Do you fit in one?
Do you know, I never got that far.
Okay.
But yeah, surely.
I'm not sure you would.
I don't want to be rude, but they're made for Americans.
But there's a European spec, which is the one that you get here.
Okay. Well, as the story will evolve,
I'm sensing that the dream has died, but
we'll
continue.
discover
Yeah.
it's not relevant. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I would. Or I'd convert it. Excuse me. I had a Ford Capri when I was a youngster, and my dad took the seat out, and he took the seat rails off and bolted the seat straight to the floor to give me some more headroom. So maybe I'd
There you go.
phone my dad. Right, so I'm going to buy this Ford Mustang because I'm bored, and I find one and it's perfect, and the garage has got it, and I phone the garage, so I'm going to come and buy it tomorrow, and they go, get deposit, put 500 quid down, you can come and get it tomorrow. So I never put a deposit down before seeing a car. It's just it might not make sense, but if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. If it goes, it goes. And I've been saying that for 50 years, and they never go. So I tell Jen, I say we're going to go and buy this car tomorrow. And get 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm upstairs in my guitar room where I'm practicing guitar, and I pick up my phone. I text the guys to say, just come to confirming, come and look at this car, and if it's all good, I'll take it. And they, as I'm typing the text, they text me and go, oh, by the way, Mr. Lewis, that Mustang you're interested is gone. And I'd emotionally bought it. I'd spent all night dreaming of driving around looking for kind of gangster Russians to attack. And what sort of puppy am I going to get? And I'm almost like I'm in an emotional moment because this dream has gone. I'm almost in tears just staring at this text. Can't quite believe it. And as I'm staring at this text, I get a text from Jen, who's downstairs, and she texts me a house for sale in the countryside. Randomly. I say randomly, once every couple of years, she'll text me a house in the countryside and say we should live in the countryside, just because I don't want to be sexist, but I'll keep it specific. My wife just likes to do that.
So does mine.
There we go. Okay, it's all women. There we go. And I thought, like my brain was in such a kind of a state of emotional turmoil and vulnerability that this house kind of imprinted on me at a moment of needing to find something else to want because the Mustang had been taken from me. It's probably like when you hatch a duck and it sees you first and it thinks you're its mummy, maybe. I don't know. And I said, I want to buy a house in the countryside now. Like I now, that's what I now need to do. So it was that. And we went to see that house. That house turned out to be unsuitable, but it got me thinking about, I quite like having half an acre and then an acre, and then I had acreage creep. And then before we know it, we're buying a house with 10 acres and a stream and an ancient woodland and otters and ducks. The duck references because we're going to have ducks.
Full circle. Very good. Very good.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, just in case people think, what the heck's about ducks? We're going to get ducks. Yeah, so it was that. Basically, it was a Mustang. Couldn't get the Mustang. Jen said, let's buy a house in the countryside. And also, it does, I think, lend itself quite nicely to what I want my YouTube. How it doesn't, you can't get less professional.
You can tell that you exist. Your life is scripted. It's just this.
Yeah. Yeah. So
we'll just keep this in there. Just to reiterate the contrast between your crisp, clean.
Funny enough, the reason I like doing podcasts is because it's not scripted, and indeed, I enjoy it for that reason. So yeah, it struck me that I could do something with what I want my fitness to be in the countryside, maybe better than I can in the city, because I want my fitness to be. I'm going to go jogging today, but I don't need my VO2 max. I don't need to know what zone I'm in. I need to take enough water that I'm not going to dehydrate myself to death and go jogging. And that's it. And it'd be nice if I don't get run over on the way. So what I can do now, hopefully, if this all goes through, touch wood, is go outside my front door and just go jogging in the countryside and not see another car. And if I do, it'll be a tractor and I'll know the guy because he'll be my neighbour. And yeah, I can just be a kind of, I can blend fitness with what it used to be, which was just doing stuff. Exercise didn't used to really exist because you didn't need to exercise because you were either working in the fields or you were a soldier or whatever. We did away with kind of battling each other or working in the fields. So we said we have to invent exercise and sport. And then that replace battles. You can just battle at high rocks instead. I want to better go back to I don't really need to exercise because I had to get up at 4 o'clock this morning because I had to whatever, clean out the goats or something. And the fence needed fixing by the stream. Otherwise the dogs were going to get through to next door's land. And I had to do all that. And then maybe at the end of the day, I've got half hour spare. So I jump on the bike and I go for a bit of a bike ride. But at no point do I need to know how many calories I burn or what my, whether Garmin says I need to sleep for 8 hours or 9 hours that night. I don't need to worry about that because I've lived my day and that is keeping me fit. It may not work. It may be that gets me so fit and I then need to add on the icing to the cake to get the level of fitness that I want, something more. And I'll have a gym in the barn and it'll all be quite cool. I'll be able to kind of fill in the gaps with that. But I like the idea that the foundations of my health and fitness come from my day-to-day life, and then my fancy pants gym or jumping on my carbon fiber bike or whatever it is, all that kind of stuff fills in the gaps. Whereas what it was previously, and it is for most people, is that there is no foundation to your health and fitness at all, and everything has to be created by you, by going to the gym, by getting on a bike or picking up a weight. You have to create it. I mean, picking up weights, picking up weights, you go back 300 years and tell someone, I'm going to go and pick up some weights. Why? What are you doing? I'm picking up, whatever, bags of whatever, or logs, or the very notion that we pick up weights is actually, when you stop and think about it, a little bit weird. There'll be some days where I won't need to pick up any weights because I'll have picked up logs and chopped them. To then go and pick up a weight in my gym, why? I mean, so that I'm hoping that people see that and find that entertaining. And if they don't, they don't. I mean, I have to do what I want to do, what I enjoy doing, and hope people come along on the journey. I can't live my life by thinking I'll do this and people will watch it.
And you make videos anyway, wouldn't you?
I'd make videos. I might have put quite as much time into them if no one watched, but I'd make them because I love telling a story. I love thinking, okay, if I'm going to make a video today about going for a bike ride in the middle of nowhere, what I don't want to do is be the YouTuber that just says, hey, welcome to the channel, let's go for a bike ride, and here we are, and we're 10k in, and now we're done, buy my supplements, bye. That's not what I want to do. I want to think, well, okay, if this is a bike ride, what's the setup? What's the conflict that happens halfway round? What's the resolution to that? What's the story? What's the point of this? Why is someone halfway through going to want to see the end? I want to take someone on I don't mean that in a kind of contrived way that I'm trying to hook people and keep them watching. I want people halfway through to think, I want to see how this wraps up. I want them to hear the story and enjoy it. And I think I can do that down there where I'll be in the middle of nowhere. And also part of me just thinks, if I can't. So what? I come home. I come home. I come back. I've also, as I turned 50, I wondered what would happen to me in terms of changes, kind of in my headspace. And one of the things that's happened is an acute awareness of how finite everything is. And 50, it's not old, but it ain't young. And I've now got, we ain't that young anymore in my head, back to Springsteen. I feel that I'm not that young anymore. And so I'd rather try something and think that didn't work, but I tried it, than wait a relatively short time and think I'm now too old to ever try it. That would be disappointing. To be 60 when I might not be able to carry logs around, that would be, So people said to me recently, what if it doesn't work out? I sell up and come back. So what? It really doesn't matter. One of the joys of being 50 as well is that you can, if you set your life up right and you've done it right, you can look back on a huge catalogue of life experience, and that gives you real peace of mind. I mean, anyone that anyone that can't do that, I feel for slightly, because one of the things I can do is I can think, not that I'm kind of living on the edge, as it were, but I have so much that I've done over the last 50 years. I am in kind of bonus play territory really now. Mother Nature has no need for me anymore. I'm not required almost. So I'm in. My kids are all independent. I'm in playtime, and so not that things don't matter, but they don't matter the way they mattered when I was 20 or 30 and had little kids and a big mortgage and stuff. I can really sort of enjoy myself now, and if it doesn't work, do something else.
Have you considered the fact that Jen bought the Mac 1, has swindled you by emotionally manipulating you and presenting you with this house, knowing that you would be exposed, and then when you move in, will reveal a beautiful Mac 1 in the barn?
Do you know what? When you started that story, I thought it was simply going to be that she'd been clever enough to pretend to have bought the Mac 1. And I was thinking, that's not likely. But then when you wrapped it up with, and she then ends up buying it for me, I'm now thinking, but it would be amazing if she were that. Clever's the wrong word, because that implies lack of clever. Conniving. She's not that conniving. Phew. I got out of that one. Yeah, she's not that conniving.
We need a jump cut.
To answer your question, she's not that conniving. No, but it would have been a clever thing to have done. Because, people think I'm kind of messing around with it. It literally was that. I'm looking at this thing, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what now? Ping. Oh. It's barns and it's bats and it's owls and it's...
Did you phone up the kids that you've given the advice of never pay a deposit on a car because it's never been proven to be the case and say, ignore that?
Well, no, because this is better. So
there you go. What a great outlook.
Yeah, this actually, I've said I've always said, I have zero regrets about anything. I always say, if you are alive today, because many people aren't, even some people that started today alive, then you shouldn't really regret too much, because life is way too complicated and brutal as well to think, oh, I wish I'd done that different. If you could roll the dice and go back and do anything again, my journey here or last week or last year, you change anything, you have no idea how it would have turned out. And people would say to me, oh, I bet you wished you got in shape when you were 25, not 35. No, I could have gone to the gym on my first day at 25, hit by a bus. So actually, I'm alive today because I didn't, and that's an exaggerated example, but it's also not exaggerated because you just don't know. So yeah, if you are alive and you are well or wellish, then the path you're on is a good one. Do not change it. Whatever's happened has got you there. Move forward. So no, and that's a great example of that. Do I regret not putting the 500 quid down? No, because if I'd done that, I would today be a slightly fat, slightly useless YouTuber with a Ford Mustang. And where's that going? As it is, I'm a slightly fat, slightly useless YouTuber with a lot of really cool things I can do in the countryside to do with fitness and health and mental health and physical health. And I'm really, really looking forward to it in a way that the Mustang would have just been stupid.
Entertaining. But you can get a tractor now, Mark.
I am literally
a Lamborghini.
Buying it. They're too big. Unfortunately, they're too big for my property. I don't have Clarkson's
disposable.
Either his income or his land. But yeah, I'm gonna be buying a tractor, and I've spent more time. Genuinely, I've spent more time in the last few months looking at tractors on YouTube than I'd previously spent looking at Mustangs on YouTube.
Telling.
So it's almost like it was meant to be. I now need to find a Russian gangster to try and get my tractor from me to fulfill the whole.
We can make some calls. And by the sounds of things, downstream of that, you will be getting a fourth dog.
Well, I'm wondering whether actually, to kind of give it a sort of rural feel, maybe he should steal my sheep or something.
Oh yeah, okay. So then you get another sheep.
That would be quite. That would be sheep, because obviously people are very sympathetic to puppies being butchered by Russian gangsters. I don't think sheep people would care too much, would they?
It's more a cost of doing business. Well, the Russian gangsters less over dying sheep.
I need a farm-based animal that people would not like to see suffer.
You need a quokka.
What?
Jamie, is it Burr Island? Rottnest Island in Australia. I think Chris Hemsworth is the patron of again, CGI body. There's a link here,
Yeah.
full circle. They're like these little marsupials with big smiles and big eyes. People would lose their heads if one of them was stolen from
They
your
don't
farm.
sound like they'd be the sort of animal you would traditionally find on a countryside location.
They don't, but I don't expect you to go about this in the most traditional way.
No. Well, I'll speak with Chris.
Yeah, give him a call.
I'll give him a call.
Yeah.
And see if I can get one. Yeah.
See, import some quokkas. I don't think anyone's ever successfully done that, but there are wallabies on a small island in the middle of Loch Lomond. So somebody somewhere has done something silly that it was maybe downstream of one of these conversations.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking more like duck.
Well, you're thinking too small, Mark.
Yeah, clearly, yeah, no, indeed. Well, if but that would make a video then. Yeah. The gangsters stole my wallaby while checking out my tractor, and I then gone some sort of rural rampage.
I'd watch that. Well, depending on the thumbnail.
Yeah, well, indeed,
Of course.
indeed, it needs to be a thumbnail using only primary colours, and created for me by some guy on Fiverr living in his mum's basement, charging $2 to do it, which appears to be the way they're done.
Get his contact details. Thank you very much. Final question.
Yes.
Above average, it's still the core of the channel, the thread of DNA that you want to focus on. It has evolved. I know a lot of positive comments on your video that went out last night about TRT and how it's helped you massively from a mental well-being point of view, and how a lot of other men at the age of 40 were sort of looking to get their declining testosterone checked and therefore explore medical intervention. What does above average to you mean from a sort of, I'm not going to say spiritual, but from a human being mental well-being point of view? Because there's a lot, I mean, I will fall into this trap sometimes if I don't give enough context in some of my videos, is this presentation of hard work and training and all the stuff that goes with it, where it's often easy to forget that a lot of people, well, I always try and hammer this home, but the reason that we train as recreational athletes is for our well-being, and that's mental and physical.
Yes.
So what is the message from a human being, a mental well-being, a general holistic health point of view that you want above average to represent? Because it means more to you now than it did when you started the channel, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know, because what I've got, the way I've approached people getting from me motivation or inspiration or any positivation of their choice is that on a one-to-one basis, I'm genuinely interested in people upping their game. So when people contact me and they email me and say, whatever, I was 400 pounds and now I'm 200 pounds and I've watched your videos and it's all because of you, and yeah, I love that, and I correspond with those people. That's the best part of the job, if you can even call it a job, is hearing those sort of stories. I love that, but society. Sometimes people say to me, often on podcasts, how do we fix society? How do we get society fit and healthy? And I think society is fucked. There is it's kind of game over. We are just going to progress to a sort of a Wall-E state, like that kids movie where everyone's just kind of floating around in giant fat kind of blobs themselves, and robots are doing everything, because that's where we're heading. I thought when we had the pandemic, I thought, well, the good thing is that we're going to come out of this with more in tune with our health, mental and physical. We're going to be more interested in being in shape, because not being in shape has clearly some poor outcomes here. And we've come out of it worse than we ever were. And there are a number of people that are far more intense about their health and fitness than they ever were. And that creates the illusion as though suddenly everyone's into their health and fitness, but they're not. You've got a very small number of people being very, very vocal about what they're doing. Yeah, I'm a high rocks, and they're very loud about it. That's amazing. That's great. But the majority of people are simply more and more unhealthy year on year. And I don't think that's changeable. I mean, because the only way you can change it is with massive, massive, massive government interference, for want of a better word. And I don't know if you'd even want that or how they'd go about it, but it's slightly irrelevant because they have no interest in doing it. So it's neither here nor there. If the government cared about health and fitness, they would do a whole bunch of things they don't do. So society is on a downward trend as far as their health and fitness goes. My message, therefore, kind of goes out to these select few people that are watching what I'm doing, and therefore it can be above average, because it's kind of like I'm saying to them, look, the rest of the world is kind of going to pot. you can just stand aside from that and be above average. But people sometimes think that some people say to me, everyone can't be above average because then it wouldn't be average. Yeah, that isn't what's happening. The majority of people aren't listening to anything I'm saying. They aren't listening to anything that anybody's saying. The average person is going downhill. So my message has always been to the people that are pricking up their ears to what I'm saying, or anybody is saying that's motivating them, is for them to sort of step outside the norm and to elevate themselves to being above average. It isn't a kind of a message that's out there to the population as a whole, because I think that's a lost cause. One of the things I miss feeling above average. I remember going to a school parents' day a few years ago, and this will sound ridiculous, but I remember sitting there waiting for my turn to speak to one of my kids' teachers. And I look around at all the other dads and mums in their 40s and 50s, and it crossed my mind, never having done any sort of physical combat sports in my life, I thought, if it all kicks off in here, for whatever reason, I could take every one of these parents. That I'm the alpha male here. Luckily, it didn't kick off because it was a school parents' evening.
Strange, yeah.
Indeed, yeah. And I enjoy that. I enjoy walking around town and thinking, goodness me, the state of so many people, but not me. While I'm sat in the cinema last night, busy cinema, loads of people walking in, and I'm just thinking, goodness me, they're all kind of coming in with their nachos and their popcorn. And I thought, do you know what? I wish I was sat here feeling a little bit more jacked than I normally am, because I don't feel that sense of superiority, and that's not in a kind of a big-headed way.
Well, it comes from It comes from empathy, I think, doesn't it?
Yes. I mean, I suppose in terms of being successful on YouTube, the empathy only goes so far, because would you like everyone to be like that? No, because that then kind of takes away my unique selling point.
I guess more from the fact that you've been there and you understand the behavior. You understand that it isn't as simple as, calories in, calories out. That is the science, but the behavior that inputs the science is not. You have been in the shoes of the people that you are reflecting upon, having maybe fallen back into some of the behaviors that you recognize in the past and can see in them, and therefore you're in a pretty unique position to be able to observe and assess what micro in specific setting changes from an individual point of view changes could be made. Obviously societal level is a totally different thing, but I think your perspective is very unique.
That's where it gets tricky, because the problem is I never have a problem with an individual making poor eating choices, because I understand that it is so much more complicated and simply hard to fix than people that just say, hey, thermodynamics, it's easy. That is shouting at alcoholics, just drink less wine, and thinking you've solved the problem, which obviously doesn't work. So I have sympathy. I don't see people and think, oh, you gluttonous pig, what's wrong with you? That isn't my thought. My thought process is, I see no way of on scale getting lots of people to fix themselves. I don't know how you do that, because that's a good example. They come into cinema last night. Everyone's walking in there with. I have a black coffee. It's a late showing. I want a coffee to stay awake, so I buy a black coffee. So that's what I'm consuming. Jen has a latte, and everyone around us is eating nachos and they're eating popcorn. It's 10 o'clock at night. So I'm assuming they've eaten already. No one needs to eat nachos at 10 o'clock at night. We're not leaving the place till gone midnight. So they're eating when they should be in bed, stuffing themselves. The adverts that come on before the film starts is for just junk food. One of them was an advert for McDonald's, and it's kids dancing around in a McDonald's as though that's a good thing. And it just makes you think, what hope is there for people at large when this is what they're presented with? This is the norm. And so above average, anyone that thinks, do you know what, I like the idea of not being like what most people are being like at the moment, come listen to the channel. There's a place for you there. But it is not. Sometimes people think I'm trying to spread the word far and wide. Pointless exercise. I'm spreading the word to people that go, I'd like to hear that.
And there's lots of them. You've reached a lot of them, and you've changed, like you said, emails, we've discussed it in the past. We discussed it 2 years ago, and the channel's tripled, maybe doubled since. I think there was a big boom. Yeah, probably doubled since then. I think. How many subscribers are you at now?
330, I think 340.
Yeah, so I think another 150 or so since then. But I think it's I think the relatability of it has gone a long way.
The best thing is people contacting me and saying, you were in. I don't need to be the reason, and I rarely am the reason. Just being a part, because like I said at the very beginning, it's the little compounding things that make me think each day I'm a bit closer to getting where I want to be. That's happened today, and if I can be someone's, do you know what, today I saw this bloke.
That's them looking at the wagon, like you said.
Yeah, indeed, and maybe they see my video and they grab hold of it, and then they watch someone else's and they climb on board. Just knowing that I've help them progress in that way. I had a great story from a guy that actually I featured on the channel, a guy called Miles, who went from about 450 pounds to 220 odd and started running ultramarathons. And he told me this horrific story about how, he died during COVID because of his weight didn't help. Comes out of hospital after COVID and carries on eating. That does not help him at all. What helps him, his first step, he goes on a flight to Mexico with his family. He's coming back. He's got a dodgy tummy because he's eating Mexican food. And he physically can't fit in the airplane toilet because he's too big. He's too big a human being to go in that toilet. So he's borrowing diapers for our American friends, because he's an American, from his nephew that's also on the flight. And he's basically sorting himself out. He ends up okay. But if he has an accident, he's going to have to just have it in diapers in his chair on the flight. And he gets off the plane after that horrific experience. And I said to him, oh, that was it, was it? That was your moment? He was like, no. But when I went to the cafe at the airport on landing, I ate a bit less than I would do normally. And then something else happened a couple of weeks later, and before he knows it, a year later he's running ultramarathons and he's in shape. Very few people have a kind of like, oh, I woke up and that was it moment. They just have these things that happen that nudge them closer and closer to being somewhere better. And once you know that's how it works, you can embrace that, because otherwise, he could have had that moment, eaten a bit less at the airport, but still eaten not great, gone home and thought, if I can't even nail it after that experience, no hope. But he didn't. He thought, that's step one. Tomorrow there'll be something else. And having gone through it myself, that's something that I now enjoy. I enjoy thinking that was the little bit that's nudged me a little bit closer. It's like, we talk about in weightlifting all the time, don't we? Washers. If you increase your weight by just washers over time, it compounds up. A lot of people think, oh, that significant thing, that holiday that I thought I'd get in shape for, that I didn't quite get in shape for, forget it. No, hang on a minute. If that got you so far, and you're now, and people, I'm 35, it's too late. No, that's fine. That's step one. Then you find step two. Then you find my video, step three. Your video, step four. And that's the path to it. People sometimes want from me to hear this happened and then I was fit. And there might be people out there with that sort of story, but I would imagine they're few and far between. For most people, it takes you a long time to get in a state. So taking some time to get out of it is not to be unexpected.
And the same applies to shrubbery, fencing, and all of the things you're about to take on. I very much look forward to seeing this journey unfold, and I very much hope that Hugh Jackman and Bruce Springsteen respond to your fan mail, because I'm assuming you sent lots of it. Yeah,
if Hugh, a collab with Hugh and Bruce, it might be getting a bit old for collaborations, I'm not sure. Chris Hemsworth and his weird marsupials.
Yeah, give him a call anyway, so yeah.
More relevant might be if someone makes fencing products and wants to get in touch.
Fencing, tractors.
To be fair, fencing might be more useful to me than having Hugh's bromance.
That's a big step down there. That's a serious compromise. It's clearly a big farm in the middle of the countryside, in the middle of nowhere.
I'm wondering, do I want a bromance of Hugh, but my dogs eat next door's sheep? Or do I want to forego the bromance and keep my dogs on my property?
Sleep on it, I think. Well, Mark, thank you very much. Round 2, really enjoyed that. it is a stark contrast, but in a very, very positive way from your scripted teleprompted existence to your Ring camera and phone call existence, which are very different perspectives. And I'm not saying that cynically. It's very enjoyable.
Indeed, and as I say again, I love doing podcasts because it's nice occasionally to just be a bit more freewheeling.
That we were. Yeah. Thank you again.
Thank you.